Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Mr. Casper Leach and Steve Elliott are here on the set with me. We'll be taking your questions and phone calls shortly. Justin Bridges is standing by. Howdy, Justin. Very well, very well. Yeah. He'll be singing a couple songs at the opening and closing for us. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And we'll be taking your calls and talking about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, and helping medical marijuana patients just in a moment after we bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
Force.
And here's Justin Bridges.
All right, y'all. This one's called Mary Mary. I'm on the Hempstock Talent Search on Facebook. Go to the Hempstock Talent or the Facebook page and like my post. Video of this song. This is called Mary Mary.
I know this pretty little girl. She drives all the boys wild. Even better than that, she lead the ladies with a smile. Now a woman like that, she can please all she meets. Yeah, she'll even make time for you and for me. So come on, you wanna meet her? Her name,
They call her Mary Jane. That pretty little woman's got a hold of me. She'll ease your mind and soothe your pain. I'm talking about Mary, Mary, Mary Jane, yeah. Mary, Mary, come with me. I'll roll on up and we'll see where we'll end up tonight with Mary, Mary by my side.
yeah, now that pretty little girl, she is taking her time. Yeah, she made it all around the world. Now it's her time to shine. Yeah, she makes paper, she makes clothes, and she can even heal the sick. Yeah, she get you high as a kite, cause she's one bad. Yeah, that's God's little gift.
Her name, they call her Mary Jane. That pretty little woman's got a hold of me. She'll ease your mind and soothe your pain. I'm talking about Mary, Mary, Mary Jane. Come on. We'll end up tonight with Mary, Mary by my side.
Yeah, that's that girl we all know and love. You see, everybody wants a piece. Don't act like you don't. Her name, I'm gonna tell you one more time.
They call her Mary Jane. That pretty little woman's got a hold of me. She'll ease your mind and soothe your pain. I'm talking about Mary Jane.
Thank you, Justin. That's
Thank
good.
you very much. Check me out, Hempstock Facebook page. Roll down and contestant number 12. Give me a like.
All right. Yep. Thank you. We'll have you back at the end of the show with an outtaking song here. Welcome. It's good to have you back, Steve.
Thanks,
Good to see you too, Casper.
We've been on hiatus for a couple of weeks. It's nice to be back in the studio and saying hello to everybody out there.
Yeah, we only had one show, and before that we had 3 off, and now we've had another week off. So we've had tape shows, though. So they've been running.
We've had some excitement here in Oregon. The legislature is trying to do something, aren't they?
They are. They're doing a few different things. There's been a hearing on a bill to completely legalize marijuana that made it through the House Judiciary Committee. Remains to be, it seems unlikely that it's going to make it through the whole legislative process. But we're ready to come back with another initiative for 2014. A whole coalition of us working together is putting that together. So time will tell. Time will tell. And so you've been working on our Hemp News project. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I have been. Since the beginning of March is when I started as editor of Hemp News, and it's a real pleasure to be part of the Hemp News team. After all, it's the Internet's longest-running compilation of cannabis and hemp information. So I just have really been enjoying having the opportunity to bring that kind of information before people. I think it's really important, and not only that, but this is a crucial time in the movement because we really are at the tipping point. It's not just a cliche. We are about to change these laws, and they are going to crumble very fast once they start crumbling. We're seeing the very beginning of that process now, and a lot of exciting research is going on, which is only going to accelerate the process. So this is something that is going to happen near future, and it's great to be a part of it.
Yeah. So if you're interested in following the news, I know you're posting 5 or 6 days a week. You can go to hemp.org/news. And we're working on a newspaper. So we should have our newspaper out come June.
Soon to come, print edition.
Yep. So you can stay tuned to see Hemp News in print. If you're interested in that, again, go to hemp.org and let us know. You can find out where to pick it up for free, or you can get us to mail it to you.
Well, it seems like every time I log online, there's a new state that's just passed a positive referendum or law, or somebody starting a new initiative somewhere for either, and not just for medical marijuana now. They're actually getting things going for industrial hemp, so our farmers can start utilizing this plant for all the great products that they can create, and creating jobs and stimulating taxes. And you're right, it is happening, and it's taking not as fast as we like it to happen, of course, but as you said, it's happening, and it's happening quick, and we need to stay on top of it so we make sure that the ball keeps rolling.
It often seems to me that the legislative process, especially when it comes to a controversial subject like cannabis, is a process of attrition. And Paul mentioned that it might not happen this time in the Oregon legislature, but what does happen whenever the subject comes up like this is a little bit of progress is made, and we knock a few chips out of that wall, and that wall is going to fall very soon. And when it's brought up a couple more times, one more time, who knows when it will make it through, but it is going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Well, and interesting too, I see that Congress is trying to get a bill through where those states where they have legal medical marijuana and recreational use, if their citizens are complying with the state regulations that are put forward in their districts, that the federal government will not come in and just piss all over their day, so to speak.
That is a really important piece of legislation because it would finally mandate that the federal government respect state marijuana laws, whether these be medical marijuana laws like we have in 18 states, or whether it be complete legalization like we have in Colorado and Washington. If this passes, and thank you to Representative Dana Rohrabacher from California for introducing it. If this passes, it changes the whole game because suddenly the federal government has to recognize the state marijuana laws.
And that just bounced right into Congress today, didn't it?
Yes.
So
And
as
so
you
we've got Portland's Earl Blumenauer is also one of the co-sponsors of that,
He
and
is.
Boulder, Colorado's Jared Paulus. So we got to say thank you to all three of those representatives. I know Barney Frank had been leading that charge for a few years, and he retired after the last session. But I'm
And
glad
this
that
week,
these
didn't
guys are
Kentucky
picking
do
it up.
something fantastic? And didn't Vermont or New Hampshire also do something?
Maryland.
Maryland? What did they do?
Medical marijuana.
All
So
three.
they're-
Well, except for Kentucky, they did industrial hemp.
Yeah, Kentucky did industrial hemp. I'm not sure where's it at in the legislative process in Maryland. Can you say? I heard
They
that.
passed the bill that would allow academic research centers to grow and dispense marijuana. There are some questions whether those research centers will do that, since it's still against federal law. Some people think that it will happen that way and provide safe access for some patients. Others are skeptical. It's going to be interesting to watch it play out.
Well, I think that my bro, I got a bromance with Eric Holder, right? Okay. My bro, and they're in Washington, on 4/20, April 20th, should come to the halls of Congress and stand before them and let them know that they finally surrender, that the war on drugs is over. They're done arresting people. They realize that there is truth in paper, fiber, fuel, and medication found in this plant, and they just feel stupid and silly arresting people for chasing after nature's best and finest seed.
You know, we've had all of the combined heads of the DEA came out during the election and opposed the initiatives in Washington, Colorado, and here in Oregon. And now they've come out and urged Holder and the Justice Department to object to Washington and Colorado's law. But they haven't done that. The federal government's been quiet, which is surprising to me, and very, very hopeful that they're going to come out with a sensible policy that recognizes that states have the power to regulate and instead of trying to enforce federal law. I had always anticipated that they would enjoin the laws, that they would go into federal court and try to stop them from going into effect. And that's what the DEA has argued they should do. But so far, that hasn't happened. And that's the big question. What are the feds going to do? And, you know, it was about, 6 weeks ago, these former heads of the DEA said, you can't remain silent. You've waited too long. If you wait another month, it's going to be too late. Well, it's been another month now. So is it too late for them to come in?
I think the reason why they're
and
being so quiet is they've also begun passing legislation about, banning the sale of machine guns and these awful weapons and assault. But then now that means Eric Holder is up for a possibility of being arrested, because if you look at this thing called Fast and Furious, he sold some assault weapons to people, so he might be having some problems to deal with.
The silence is a very interesting thing, because it could mean one of a number of things, and it could mean that there is a policy struggle going on within the Obama administration right now about exactly what they're going to say and do. I also find it interesting that of the DEA heads that came out against legalization and encouraged Obama to do something to stop legalization, that a couple of those guys have stock in companies that do drug testing, and they are profiting right now from drug prohibition. So I think if you follow the money, you might see why they are so entrenched in their opposition to marijuana legalization.
You know, if you're out there watching, we do take your questions and comments. If you have a question for us, call us at 503-288-4442. It's that number there on your screen. I guess we do have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello, caller. Try it one more time. Hello, caller.
Hello, Paul. Is this me?
Yeah, how are you?
Paul, good. How are you doing, folks? I've been trying to get a hold of you guys for a while, and haven't been able to get through, but glad I did today.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to talk to you about that subject you were just talking about. We're just going to be left in the dust, man. All the other countries are going to be providing our fuel, fiber.
We are now.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. I don't know. It just scares the shit out of me. How can you be so stupid? But that's not why I called. Paul, my name is Steve. I've talked to you before several times.
Hey, Steve.
So anyway, something about the Kaiser situation and the pain medication. And a while back, I thought I heard you talking on your show about that you guys were opening up some type of
Yeah, we currently, are helping patients get medical marijuana permits in Washington, Oregon, Michigan, Hawaii, and several other states. But we are in the process of putting together a wider ranging medical clinic business. We haven't rolled that out yet, but probably in the next 90 to 120 days, you should start seeing some changes along that line.
Well, you probably remember me talking probably about this for about a year and a half now. Well, I'm on my third week of weaning, so but I was just wondering what you were doing for future people, because I lost that game. Right? If you remember the whole fight I was putting up with Kaiser and trying to see their administration and stuff.
Yeah, I do. You know, Kaiser did a huge epidemiological study about a decade ago, and they approved, their national office approved doctors in Oregon and Colorado issuing medical marijuana permits, but that doesn't mean the individual doctors have to or anything. And a lot of them are just against that. So it depends on the physician you get, regardless of what facility they work at.
That might not be the correct statement, because I think Kaiser, I'm not sure if there are any Permanente doctors that would do that.
Mm-hmm,
I think that is.
I know some people who have got their permit through Kaiser doctors. It has happened.
And they still do.
Yeah, I think so.
Or until now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I'll be damned, because I'll tell you, that's just their policy, and the FDA is like, in with Permanente anyway. I mean, they've always, Kaiser and Kaiser, has always been in with the government. So, but how can they tell you that you can't do narcotics at the same time if they can potentiate each other so you don't have to use as much?
I don't think they should, obviously. I think, in fact, I've known a number of patients who the medical system has addicted to pharmaceutical drugs and that have used cannabis to wean themselves off of those drugs, as you're attempting to do now. And even know some people who help us on this show who've been able to use very strong cannabis oil and not have to go through the heavy withdrawals. This stuff, it's a high quality cannabis oil. A lot of people call it Rick Simpson oil. And so if you can get your hands on some of that, and it's very concentrated, takes quite a bit of marijuana to make it, but it's very powerful for antioxidant properties to fight cancer and to help people get off addictive narcotics.
Yeah, but Paul, I think, as far as addictive narcotics go, there are some people whose quality of life are helped by that, and that might be just part of the effect that they would have to deal with. So if you could potentiate that drug with hemp, cannabis, why would you not do that so they don't have to use as much?
Well, I think as marijuana becomes legal, we'll see a lot of people switching to these cannabis alternatives instead of using addictive narcotics. And that, as you know, that'll increase their quality of life and do away with most of the side effects from those dangerous narcotics.
Well, I hope it all works out that way. So far,
Me
I'm
too.
having trouble with that. It really, it's potentiated so that since 1994, I've hardly ever, gone up at all. But I've been on a contract that long. But I've always stayed real low, and I'm always convinced it was because of that. But now it's over. So, and that is decreasing my abilities in life right now, which is a drag. I'm a very active person.
Well, good luck with
not as much now, but it'll work out.
Weaning off those things and in your health process.
Yeah, appreciate it very much, and we'll talk to you again and about more exciting things.
All right, thank you, Steve. You have a good night. Thanks for calling. We have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Paul?
Yes.
My name's Julius, and the guy that just called, I have the same exact thing with Kaiser going on because of because of marijuana. And I'm trying to wean myself off. the person that just called, let them know that they could get the Bible and they can make a tincture and make some medical pills to take to help wean off of the opiates, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult. But I have been able to go 8 years on the same amount of pain medication with marijuana with no increases.
That's good.
For 8 solid years. Now I'm weaning off of it because I want to have a medical marijuana license, and I can't get it through Kaiser. Kaiser is not working with their patients that are chronic pain patients, and they're supposed to be doctors that give an oath to help you, not destroy you. And so besides that, I wanted to comment on the DEA.
Yes.
Once the DEA can't arrest people for marijuana, how many people are going to get laid off because of that?
How many
Wouldn't
DEA
that be
agents, you mean?
Save money on the deficit?
There's quite a few of them. I mean, you know, there's a natural tendency for these bureaucrats to stay in their positions. So this is something they're fighting tooth and nail on. And so far, the Obama administration has kept them reined in. So I'm very happy so far, but it remains to be seen what the final position of the Obama administration is.
Well, you got a lot of businesses around the United States. If any of them lose their jobs because of relegalization or ending prohibition, you'll hire them.
Well, as many as we can. I try to create as many jobs as we can, but I don't know about DEA agents. I'm not sure whether I hire former DEA agents. That's they'll have to find some other line of work.
Well, we'll piss
I don't know if
test
they'd
them.
want to work in a marijuana.
We'll piss test them, and if they come back positive, they can take the job.
Right, right. Well, I always say in our line of business that drug testing is quality control.
That's right. Speaking of this new pot
Thanks,
czar.
Julius, for your comment.
This new pot czar in Washington, what do you think of the guy? I mean, you're from up in that area, and you've been pretty vocal about
Mark
what's going
Kleinman
on.
and his organization.
So it's going to be pretty groovy? Is it exciting, or is it just like all smoke and mirrors and a horse and pony show?
It definitely bears watching. Mr. Kleinman has said a couple of interesting things both before and after his appointment as pot czar of Washington. One of the things that concerns me that he said before he was pot czar of Washington was that in speaking about Prop 19 in California a couple years ago, he said marijuana legalization couldn't be done by that method on a state-by-state basis.
Yeah.
And he felt that model wouldn't work. And apparently he's either changed his mind or something, because now he's overseeing a state legalization program in another state. Another thing he said was that the recreational marijuana being sold in state licensed stores in Washington might not be able to compete price-wise with the medical marijuana being sold in dispensaries, because the recreational stuff in the state stores is going to be taxed, and presumably the medical marijuana in dispensaries is not. So that sounds suspiciously to me like maybe the state of Washington and or Mr. Kleinman have designs on taxing medical marijuana and controlling the dispensaries through the Liquor Control Board, which oversees the recreational marijuana program. That could be quite bad, according to some people I've talked to. And there is actually a move afoot in the Washington legislature right now. There is a bill on the floor that would do that. It would fold the medical marijuana program in Washington under the authority of the Liquor Control Board. So you have basically Liquor Control Board people in control of a medicine. That seems rather odd to me.
That is. That's very odd. Doesn't seem right.
But I thought I saw where they're only going to charge $35 on the ounce for the tax. That's not much compared to what we're paying on the black market now, right?
I've seen various figures on that, and since it has the opportunity to be taxed at a 25% rate at 3 steps of the process, that is to say at the cultivation, the processing, and the retail, those prices could be higher than that. I'm very interested to see. I would like to be optimistic. I am going to keep a close eye on that, though, and I hope that they don't charge so high that people continue to use the black market.
I know there's police officers, or maybe it was temporary police chief in Seattle, who had a comment about that just a couple days ago, and said that he's afraid that the process would make the price so high that it wouldn't be economical for people to buy it through the stores. It'd still be economical for them to get it through the black market. Of course, we don't want to see that happen.
That's one thing we have to watch for.
That's cool, though, that we got a chief of police concerned about the cost of buying marijuana. Apparently, he doesn't want to pay any more than we do. So.
Yeah, and he said he really appreciated it. He'd only tried marijuana once when he was 17.
Yeah.
But,
well, I only tried it once, too, when I was 16, and I'm still trying it.
Yeah.
It's been an ongoing...
We stream online, and if you're out there anywhere in the country or you know someone who should be watching the show, you can tell them to go to ustream.tv to watch us live, or they can watch repeats on YouTube. But we have a place there for questions. If you have a question, just type it into the chat box, and through the magic of technology, we'll get it here on the air. And I have a question actually for you, Steve.
Okay.
This is says, you had opposed I-502, and I understand why you opposed it. The 5 nanogram limit on driving is not a realistic limit. People aren't impaired when they have 5 nanograms of active THC in their blood.
True.
I think I wake up with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably do. And so, but since the question is, since its passage, can you see any positive changes in Washington? And how can we improve 502 to make it better?
I can think of one positive change immediately, and that has been that a lot of police departments in cities around the state have chosen to drop pending pot cases. And this, when you total them all together, there are several hundred people who were facing marijuana charges before the passage of 502 who no longer have to worry about that. So, of course, that's a big positive.
Yeah, that's right.
We like to see happy things like that happen.
Yeah.
Now, as far as improving 502, one thing that we would have to do is get that 5 nanogram DUI limit off of there.
It needs to be scientifically based, not some arbitrary limit that these police just pulled out of a hat, which is basically what they've got right now. And it's provided a bad model for Colorado, because now Colorado has passed I don't think it's gone all the way through the legislative process,
right?
But they've passed a law to implement that 5 nanogram limit just because Washington has it.
Which is exactly what some of us had predicted, and one reason that we were trying to take a strong stand against 5 nanograms. Yeah. A couple of other things that could be improved.
I know there was no input from the community in that process.
Right. It was dictated from above rather than input from the
Washington ACLU's director pretty much drafted it behind closed doors and then just dropped it out there, and nobody knew what was coming until they were circulating it.
Right. It was pretty much a finished product by the time most of us read it. A couple of other things we would need to do with 502 is allow home cultivation. Yeah. In my mind, that's a crucial point. Marijuana is not legal until you can grow your own. Until then, it's quasi-legal at best. And one of the things that should be changed is the way that 502 unfairly hurts young people. If you are under 21 and you get caught with marijuana metabolites in your blood while you're driving, it doesn't matter if you're 5 nanograms or not. If you have any amount, they have a 0 tolerance. So that is going to mess a lot of people up, and we don't want to see that happen. They are being saddled basically with a DUI record when it's unnecessary, and they probably weren't impaired to begin with.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We have some videos we're going to run. We've got our Wayback Machine ready to roll, so stay tuned as we roll this video with Chris Conrad and a younger Casper Leach. Stay tuned.
I'm Casper Leach, and it's time for Hemp. This is a program that has been designed to put together the information, facts, and figures regarding the hemp, also known as marijuana plant. We're also trying to focus on the historical past, and maybe even more so, should we say, economical past of this plant. Today, my guest is Chris Conrad. Chris Conrad is a leading spokesperson for America's new hemp/marijuana restoration movement. He is the national director of both the Business Alliance for Commerce and Hemp, also known as BAC, and the New Republic Agenda. He is on the executive board of America's Hemp Council, the Family Council of Drug Awareness, and Southern California's NORML, which also stands for the National Organization of the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Chris is a recognized authority in the environmental, economic, civil liberties, social, medical and political aspects of hemp/marijuana prohibition. He designed and edited Jack Hare's enlightening book on the uses and history of the hemp plant, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Thank you for joining us, Chris. Can you tell us a little bit about the BAC organization, please?
Sure. The Business Alliance for Commerce in Hemp was formed a couple of years ago by a group of investors and business people and activists who are concerned, and researchers who are concerned about the current trend of American politics, not only in terms of the suppression of civil liberties involved with the marijuana movement, of course, but with the suppression of the economic alternatives that are available by developing hemp. And we have basically 4 goals that we're working for. The first is the deregulation of commercial non-smoking uses of hemp for things like paper, fiber, fuel, food, things like this. The second is to restore the medicinal use and availability of hemp as a medicine or as an herbal user. And the next is to get back, to restore the civil liberties, the freedom of choice of the individual in terms of what they garden or what they choose to consume in their leisure time. And the final one is to develop a system of outlets and other kinds of ways of handling a domestic hemp industry that would be for consumption through smoking and so forth. Something along the lines of the wine industry where the individual can grow it, or it could also be used.
Yeah, I don't know, I've always gotten the impression that this movement is primarily an organization trying to get a bunch of old hippies together so they can get out there and legalize marijuana so they can smoke the brains out, you know? Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is a little different than that.
One thing is that if there were a bunch of old hippies who got together and went out in the fields where they're growing commercial industrial hemp, they're not going to get to smoke their brains out because it's going to be, it contains so little THC that it wouldn't be good as a psychoactive substance or as an intoxicant or however you want to refer to it. It's a relaxational.
Why is it that it can, why do you mean by that? Is it a different kind of hemp plant than what you get high with?
No, it's still a cannabis plant. Cannabis is, of course, a scientific name for it. Hemp is the American or English name for the plant. Marijuana is just an expression that William Randolph Hearst picked up from Mexico, and in fact, they don't even use it in Mexico. We call it mota down there, or cañamo. But marijuana was just like this slang word that we use nowadays, but it is the same plant. It's just a matter of how you cultivate it. If you were growing it very densely together, you get a lot of stem, a little bit of leaf, very little THC. If you spread it out more, you'll get more of the branching and flowers, and that's where your THC is.
But isn't re-legalizing sending a wrong message to kids, especially? We're saying, all right, dudes, go out there, get high, party your brains out. We don't care. It sounds like it's sending a wrong message to me.
Well, first off, prohibition isn't really about sending messages, it's about sending people to jail, and there's a big difference between these two things. If we're not saying that, for example, tobacco and alcohol, these are things that we don't condone as a society as such, but we do allow people to have that freedom of choice, especially adults. It's a way of simulating the difference between a child and adult, is that when you reach a certain age where you can consume alcohol and tobacco, that's considered toys of the adult, so to speak. And so marijuana will be placed similarly in a category like that.
Yeah, but won't kids have easier access to it if you legalize it?
Well, I would say actually less so. There are 2 reasons for this. One is because when we see countries like the Netherlands or Spain and countries where they have legalized marijuana for private use, they find that actually the use goes down, it hits a stable level in society, and part of that is because the mystique of doing something illegal is taken away. The other thing is that if it's being vended by someone who is a distributor who has a license on the line and pays fees.
No, it was, you were saying December of 1990s when you cut that.
We filmed that December 1990, and it broadcast January 5th, 1991. That was actually the very first segment of Time for Hemp, and I really didn't think it'd be much more than 3 or 4 segments. We were trying to get some film footage and audio sounds for some ads.
And you're still doing it on radio now.
23 years later, my 3 segments has gone into 23 years worth of hard work. And a lot of it's because Jack kept emphasizing the need.
Jack Hare, who you had worked with.
To maintain a diligent and an ambitious assault on these clowns in Washington that want to take away our rights.
Very good point. If you're out there and you have a question or comment, you can call us at 503-288-4442. We have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Is that me?
That's you.
Hey, Paul. This is Kenneth, your friend from Charlotte. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Great. It's nice to talk to you. Hello, Casper. Paul, I've got a friend of mine here in town. His name is Mike. He has been diagnosed with lymphoma. It creates these terrible sores on his skin that don't go away for months and sometimes close to a year at a time and whatnot. So I tried to at least give him the alternative idea of some sort of a cannabis oil or something like that to help him. But I don't have the specifics on, exactly what he needs to make this thing relent a little bit.
There's several ways that they can take cannabis orally. You can cook it into foods. You can make glycerin-based tinctures. Glycerin has a kind of a sweet flavor. It's a vegetable oil extract that's used in a lot of body care products like toothpaste and mouthwash. You can do an alcohol extract. I've made it with Everclear, which is pretty strong and burns when it goes down, or you can make it with just about any kind of alcohol-based product. You don't want to use rubbing alcohol, though. You just want to have consumable alcohol. You can also make it extracted a number of different ways. One of my favorite ways is just to put it over a silk screen, and then you get the trichromes go through the silk screen, the vegetable matter doesn't. Then you can use that in foods or for inhalation. But there's several ways to do it. So I would just recommend that your friend call our office. We'll be happy to help. They can call it 503-235-4606. Here in the Portland area, again, that's 503-235-4606, that number that just popped on your screen. Or if you're anywhere in the United States, we have doctors who can help you get a state medical marijuana permit. For any of those conditions right there, you can call us toll-free at 1-800-723-0188. Again, that's 1-800-723-0188.
And don't forget, I've said it before, but don't forget politicians and members of the DEA, you can take your medical marijuana via suppository.
Well,
there's a bunch of ways you can take it.
The problem is,
I haven't ever made a suppository myself.
The problem is we're in North Carolina, and there's not really an opportunity to get a medical card.
Oh, yeah, you can't get into North Carolina, at least not yet. I know there's a fellow, Perry Parks, who's working with the North Carolina legislature trying to get a bill through. North Carolina is one of the decrim states, so that's a good thing. Simple possession isn't a felony there. I think it was originally an infraction, but then it was recriminalized to misdemeanor level for possession of under an ounce. Now they're talking about taking it back down to an infraction again.
Well, Paul, the main reason
I graduated from high school in Asheville, North Carolina, so I have a lot of family and friends back there. So
y'all don't talk like you're from North Carolina.
This friend of mine doesn't believe that he can cure his cancer with this, and I'm just trying to get him
something that's so beneficial to so many people and criminalize it. But as I've often said on the show, it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about money, power, and the continued centralization of economic and political control. And so,
someone pointed out this week that the politicians don't care about the amount of taxes it can generate and can bring in to help the states. Like you said, they're concerned about the power and the prestige and the lobbyists that are in their corner.
Yeah.
Right. I appreciate everything you guys are doing to try to help us get to an end of this prohibition. I mean, it's what it needs to happen in this country. But thank you so much for taking my call. And,
well, thanks for calling. Good luck down there in North Carolina.
Yeah, Paul, come and see us again. We'll fix you a nice dinner.
All right, will do.
Come and see us. All right, good night.
Plan on being out there sometime in the fall. So yeah, we're watched all around the country, obviously. If you're watching us on the Ustream.tv network, you can call us and ask a question. We're on every Friday night here. It's 11 o'clock in Eastern Time and 8 o'clock Pacific Time.
I have a feeling Homeland Security watches you. Do you have a message for them?
Homeland Security. A message for Homeland Security. Just
they're watching.
You know, we want a peaceful society, and cannabis will help make it a more peaceful society. Don't you gentlemen agree?
I agree. It can only help.
Yeah. So we want you guys to go after the real criminals, and that's the goal. We have another little film clip we're going to roll. We have some film clips from about 5 months ago, from election night here in Oregon, and maybe on a national basis too. I'm not sure exactly which clips are in here, but we got about 6 minutes of video. So let's go ahead and run that, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Continuing our election coverage today, we are also keeping a very close eye on those marijuana legalization issues, Measure 80 in Oregon and 502 in Washington.
K2's Tom Jensen is live at the world-famous Cannabis Cafe in Southeast Portland. And Tom, the Washington legalization is ahead in polls, but behind in Oregon, according to K2's Survey USA poll. What are the pro-marijuana folks there at that cafe saying about that? Are they worried at all?
Well, Steve, they say that they believe that that poll is skewed, especially if it is mostly conducted over landlines. They told me in a number of interviews that they believe that younger voters, mostly who are likely to vote yes on 80, mostly use cell phones solely. Okay. One thing political analysts, even like our own Patrick Preston, has pointed out numerous times that there has been a lack of traditional advertising in this race by the folks for yes on 80. But Madeline Martinez, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws board member, and this cafe's founder, says she is confident 80 will pass.
I speak to people every day, you know, people that serve our county, serve our city, and they tell me they voted for it. You know, the nail lady voted for it. I even heard that one of my grandchildren's teachers voted for it because people don't feel that incarceration is the answer.
Now, the folks against 80 and I-502 have some of the same arguments against legalization. They say it could be a gateway to more dangerous drugs, that more children could start using, and there would be more criminals on the streets. On the flip side, though, supporters say it is a cancer fighter, it is less lethal than alcohol, and legalization could destroy the Mexican drug cartel's #1 cash crop. The one thing I think everyone will agree on in this election is that while voters feel one way or the other on this issue, there has not been that highly charged rhetoric in this race or either of the initiatives in Washington or the measure here in Oregon that has been so divisive in so many races in this election. Of course, you can keep in touch with us on Twitter, and we'll be here live all night keeping you up to date on both the Measure 80 here and I-502 in Washington. Live in Southeast Portland, Tom Jensen, K2 News.
A lot of money was poured into that Washington campaign, and again, that one, in all of our polls, and all the polls I've seen, Tommy, is ahead over Washington. We'll keep an eye on that one. Thank you, sir.
All right, let's take a look at a big issue that passed big in Washington. Really, I think that the country was watching the Northwest with this, legalizing and regulating marijuana. This is I-502 in Washington, passing with 57% of the vote.
K2's Tom Jensen live at the Cannabis Cafe, Southeast Portland, where a victory party's underway. But, Tom, Measure 80 could still be voted down, it appears, by looking at those numbers. So why the victory party? What's going on there?
Well, it does look like it'll be voted down. In fact, they just gave a concession speech, the author of the bill, Paul Stanford, did. But Madeline Martinez, the founder of the Cannabis Cafe, and also normal national board members here, and you were saying earlier and continued to say through the night that this is a victory, even though Measure 80 failed.
Well, Measure 80 sadly did fail, but we made history tonight. Marijuana became legal in Colorado and in Washington State. So, you know, Paul just said it. What is the legislature going to do when we go spend our dollars in Vancouver and in Seattle? Are they going to want that? No, we're going to take this down to the legislature, and we're going to go visit Peter Buckley, and we're going to see if he'll introduce this into legislation at the next session.
Why do you think it failed here? Was it because of the liberal amounts? You know, Josh Markey, some of the opponents said it just allows too much marijuana, unlimited cultivation, unlimited. Do you think that that was ultimately it?
No, I don't. I don't think that was it. I think it was the lack of funding from, you know, the large.
All right. Well, that jammed up there for some reason. So we had a few film clips from election night. So There you have it.
I didn't have hair then.
If you have any questions or comments for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4442.
Well, there are some people who seem to think that the Justice Department knows what they're going to do. They're just playing their hand close to their vest, and that they've got some kind of really big, happy surprise that when Colorado and Washington begin to move forward, that they're going to sweep in and do whatever.
I don't know. I haven't really heard that argument. If they were going to do anything, you'd think they'd do it sooner rather than later. And so the fact that they haven't done anything sooner, I think, is a good sign.
You think it's a quiet surrender?
I don't know. I'm not going to go that far, whether it's a surrender or not. But we will see. I think if they were going to vehemently come out and enjoin the laws, it probably would have happened already. So it remains to be seen what they're going to do. But I'm very hopeful. So how is it going with the news posting at hemp.org? And is there anything you can tell our viewers about finding that? And
I've been really encouraged by the level of response that we've been getting on the stories at hemp.org. Those things are getting widely circulated. A lot of people are reading them, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from them. I would invite everybody to visit hemp.org/news. Every day we freshen up those stories every day and try to bring the latest to you. A lot of times we'll be among the first on the internet with stories. And if you want to find out the 4 or 5 most important stories each day when it comes to the cannabis community, that is a good place to start. hemp.org/news.
And thanks for doing that work, Steve.
I enjoy it.
important. I know you do. We have a phone call. Let's go ahead and take that caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi, guys. Paul, you've talked a couple of times about how you take your medicine back and forth to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I go back and forth to Hawaii, and I would like to know, how do you get your medicine through the agricultural inspection? Not the security inspection that you go through first, but after you're in the secured area, you know how you have to go through
I just
the
leave it in the
agricultural
bag,
inspection?
and I've never had them pull it out or say anything. You know, I have my Hawaii card. I've only had to show it one time. Here on the Oregon side, it hasn't been a problem either. It's just have your permit with you. I leave it in my carry-on luggage, and it hasn't been an issue, except when it has been found on those rare occasions, which is maybe 1 out of 100 times that it's been an issue. Just show them your permit, and you can go on your way. But if you're in Hawaii, you want to be sure that you have your Hawaii blue card, and if you're flying out of Oregon, you want to have your Oregon green card. So.
Okay, I have a permit in Hawaii as well as here, and I have brought it back baked in edibles. And I've been questioned because at the weight at agriculture, I've been questioned, what is in these, because they're heavy. The muffins, they're heavy.
I don't ever carry
you.
edibles that way. I've always just carried raw cannabis, and like I said, usually it doesn't even come up. And the one time it did in Hawaii, when I showed him the card, that's all it took, and I was sent along on my way.
Okay, well, I've always been very concerned about flying between Oregon and Hawaii with medicine, but maybe I'll give it a shot. If you can get by with it, maybe I can too.
I've done it many times, so it has not been an issue. If you have your card in both places, just make sure you don't go over your Hawaii limits, and you should be fine. And obviously, the Hawaii limit being 3 ounces isn't any problem for Oregon. I usually don't take that much because I'm not there long enough to need 3 ounces. But
yeah. Well, when I go for a pretty lengthy time, so it's hard to go without. And I wanted to pass on just something to the gentleman who calls from North Carolina about his friend is so sick. I have purchased, I've given a donation for some Rick Simpson oil. And I have taken it and put it into a gelatin capsule, just a little bit in each capsule, and I take it like it's medicine, because I, too, am on fentanyl patches, which is a very strong narcotic. I've been on them for years, and I would love to get off of them. I just love to get off of them. Any other suggestions?
Well, when it comes to that, what I've seen, and I've seen a couple people who work on our show here, they will take a gram a day in 3 doses. So they'll take 1/3 of a gram 3 times a day, and they were able to wean themselves off of it very quickly without withdrawal symptoms, is what I've been told by both people. And so that's something that you might want to try.
Because if I'm even a half a day late putting on a fresh patch, I will have a vicious headache.
Yeah.
They're awful. They're awful.
Yeah. So try
So
taking
I really
a
would
big
like to
dose of this. You know, it doesn't take very much of that Rick Simpson oil to, or this very highly concentrated cannabis oil to give you an effect. And so this is more than you need for the simple high. And you know, you basically after a few days get a build up a tolerance to it when you're taking that gram of that a day. And so I know we've had it tested with over 90% cannabinoids, and so it's almost pure THC and CBD and CBN.
And smoking it also helps you build up a tolerance against people who annoy you and give you a headache.
But that aside, really taking it
Would that be
orally
you,
and taking a good amount, a lot more than you would just to get high, will help you quit those without the headaches or other withdrawal symptoms. That's what I've been told by several people, so I think it's probably true. Let me know how it works for you.
I was told the size of a grain of rice is what I should take as a dose.
Yeah, that
is
sounds
that
about
too
right.
Little?
You know, what we do when we have made it, which isn't a whole lot, we'll put it into food syringes that measure out 10 cc's, and a cc being roughly a gram. And so just take 1/3 of that 3 times a day, and I think it'll help you get off of those things if you want to try that.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all you do.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your call. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Well, we're down to just a few more minutes left here. We might be able to get in one more phone call. If you want, you can call us at 503-288-4442. Also, if you are a loved one or looking for a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit, whether it be in Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, Michigan, or many other spots throughout the United States, we'll be happy to refer you to doctors who can help. You can call us toll-free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. If you're here in the Portland area, you can call us at 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606, which just popped up on your screen. Casper, you want to give a plug for your radio show?
I'd like to. Please make it a point to go to AmericanFreedomRadio.com every Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, and take Time for Hemp. Also go to iTunes and type into the search engine Time for Hemp. We have 4 podcasts you can download for free. Share with your friends. If you go to timeforhemp.com, we have a news tracker you can download into your phone, and we also post the top 10 headlines on timeforhemp.com that you can check out each day. Share with your friends, and throughout the course of the day, the news tracker will keep you up to date and current with the marijuana movement. And don't forget, the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's time for hemp.
Do you want to give a plug for your things, Steve?
Sure. In addition to my day job at Hemp News, you can check out my personal blog at tokesignals.com. That's where I share some of my opinions, and I also have a good stable of writers over there. Some of the best writers in the cannabis movement have been nice enough to contribute their talents to tokesignals.com. If you want to read a little bit about the history and culture of this plant, you can check out the Little Black Book of Marijuana. That's something that I wrote a couple years ago, and a lot of people have enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it's a great little book. You also outline some strains there, don't you?
Yes, I dip lightly into the strain thing and go through a few of them.
And then you also write a column for the Seattle Weekly.
I do. I write a medical marijuana dispensary review column for Seattle Weekly. It's also called Toke Signals, and each week I interview a different dispensary. I try a couple of their strains and sometimes some of their medibles, and I write those up, and the reviews aren't all positive. I do tell what actually happens, and I give credit where credit's due.
Well, I try the strains too. I just don't write anything about them. I try them.
Well, that's great. So you can find out more about that at those sites. We had a question online about the Global Cannabis March here in Portland. It's going to be on May 4th. You want to be at Pioneer Courthouse Square. We'll be marching starting at noon, so you want to be there a little before noon, or you'll miss the march, because we'll start at high noon on Saturday, May 4th, for the Global Cannabis March. It'll be here in Portland and over 200 other cities all around the world, so we can make our voices heard. So I want to thank you folks for watching. We'll be back next week with another live show. We're going to go out with another great song from Justin Bridges. Thanks for coming on again, Justin.
No problem.
And thank you folks for watching, and tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Huh! Good night.
I'm actually getting to play for the Global Cannabis March. I'm the musical act for Portland here.
All right. Great.
So this is a new song I'm working on.
Be happy to see you there.
Well, you know they won't beat you. They'll keep you down however they can. And with a smile on their face, they'll tell their lies to every woman, child, and man. Yeah, but it's not until you see it with your own eyes that you can fully understand. Propaganda provides people with a daily reinforcement of what's right and wrong and who to hate according to our government. But luckily this beautiful universe is benevolent. Seems to be the reason our government fights for relevance. So look into yourself, and if you feel me, let me see that fish out. Power to the people, cause the people are heaven sent. And revolutionary times, you might as well just shoot your TV set, kick off your shoes and find some place where you can let your soul connect. Cause you know they won't beat you. They'll keep you down however they can. And with a smile on their face, they'll tell their lies to every woman, child, and man.